Hello, fellow cyborgs, and welcome to my Christmas book haul because Santa and my friends and family were very generous as they are every single year. I hope that you had or are having a lovely holiday, depending upon what holiday you celebrate, if you celebrate at all. As you can tell, I celebrate Christmas and would like to tell you about the books I acquired. There were 15 in total and a few other bookish gifts I want to talk with you about, and let's start with the books I have fortunately already read. Santa gave me a huge stack of these baby lit board books, which the first three at least are written by Jennifer Adams and illustrated by Allison Oliver, and these last three are also written by Jennifer Adams, but they're illustrated by Ron Stuckey. This is a counting primer based off of Dracula and has, in my opinion, the most beautiful art of the entire baby lit series. I just absolutely adore it. It's just, I don't quite know how to describe it, but I really love this book, even though I have not read Dracula, and I don't necessarily intend to read Dracula because I have heard of all the misogynistic problems, but this is an adorable counting primer, and I'm so glad that I received it. This also has very beautiful illustrations. This is the Anna Karenina Fashion Primer, which talks about different sorts of pieces of apparel, mostly for women, so earrings, dresses, what have you. Let me show you my favorite, which is buttons, and it's got a nice snowy scene. Reminds you very much that this is a Russian tale. Then there's the Secret Garden of Flowers primer, which shows you the flower in question and has a lovely quote from the Secret Garden text. These are just really simple but really beautifully laid out. Snowdrops are my favorites, and I am really glad to have this one as well. And then we get to these adorable Edgar Allan Poe based board books that also are lesson teaching sorts of things. Edgar Gets Ready for Bed is based off of The Raven, and it talks a bit about children being really difficult to deal with, especially at bedtime, where they never more want to brush their teeth or get into bed or put on their pajamas. Edgar and the Tree House of Usher is based upon the fall of the House of Usher, and it has to do with playing fairly with other people and the potentially disastrous consequences if you don't. And Edgar and the Tattletale Heart is based off of the Telltale Heart, and this is about fessing up to the mistakes that you have made. I really enjoyed all three of these. I think they're really cute, and even though I am not the biggest fan of Edgar Allan Poe, I am certainly a big fan of Edgar, this cute little bird raven thing here. I also received this incredibly beautiful collection of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. I'm not sure who translated these, which perturbs me. It's not anywhere in this volume, but that's okay. The volume is very pretty. Here is the front cover and the spine and the back. Here are the end papers. It has foiled silver edges, and it is nearly fully illustrated with black and white photos as well as some full color picture illustrations. And these illustrations are from W. Heath Robinson. This contains maybe like 15 different stories. I'm pretty sure I read all of them, but I'll have to double check that because I read a mass market paperback collection of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales when I was 11. So I'm counting this as read, even though I haven't read this volume yet, but I'm certainly looking forward to doing so with all of the beautiful illustrations. I also was finally given my own copy of A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, inspired by Siobhan Dowd. I read this in 2014, a library copy. It made me sob and cry, but I loved it so much, and I just hadn't gotten around to getting my own copy. This has very beautiful end papers and, of course, incredibly beautiful illustrations, in my opinion. This is also a really important book on grief and dealing with grief, and it's set in a fable fairy tale sort of tone. I just absolutely adore this. I'm not so sure about the movie yet. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to go see it, but in any case, I'm really glad to finally have a copy in my library. And the last book that I've already read and finally have a copy of is Beauty and the Beast by Max Ehlenberg, illustrated by Angela Barrett. This is one of my new favorite children's picture books and one of my my absolute favorite adaptations of the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale. The illustrations are really awesome. The background for the characters is one of my favorite things because you actually care about Beauty and her family before the Beast even gets into the story, which most of the time isn't so. Most of the time everyone just kind of skips ahead to the good bits with the Beast. I also really love the character design of the Beast. I have never seen one like this before. He is always very anthropomorphic, and this one has a big sweeping lizard tail. He's very creepy looking, but I think that's important because he's not just supposed to be a furry, handsome dude. He's supposed to be a beast, for cripe's sake. So yes, to say the least, I'm so excited to finally have a copy of this on my shelves. And also let me show you the naked hardback. So cute! And now onto the books that have been added to my physical TBR for 2017. This is a collection of Robert Frost's poetry, selected poems, and this was picked up in Barnes & Noble in case you're wondering where you can get it, though I will have it linked down below, tied into Goodreads hopefully. I am already started reading this because there were a few Christmas winter poems that I wanted to read before Christmas Day, and I don't really know what I think about Robert Frost's poetry yet. He deals with themes that I really like, isolation and the natural world and relationships between people, but his poetry is most of the time like short stories, but in verse that don't necessarily rhyme. It's weird. I'm going to withhold judgment until I finish this collection, but this is an absolutely beautiful edition of his work with these blue foiled birch trees. Ugh, to die for. I also received 2 Christmas reads that, fingers crossed, I will get to in November and December of 2017, leaving it to the last minute. One of them is Christmas poems, and this is the Everyman Library Pocket Poets edition. This contains a bunch of different Christmas poems on all sorts of different themes, including Christmas songs and carols, Christmas tide, Christmas crackers, Christmas ironies, Christmas Eve, the Nativity, Annunciation, and Advent, etc., etc. I've already started reading some of these. I did so on Christmas Day, and a lot of them, at least the ones that I flipped through, were quite melancholy, but in any case, I don't really mind the melancholy, and hopefully I will be getting to this around this time, but like a month or two sooner next year. I was also given Christmas Stories, which is the Everyman's Pocket Classics, and this contains a bunch of different Christmas themed stories from authors of the likes of Charles Dickens, Nikolai Gogol, Arthur Conan Doyle, Anthony Trollope, Leo Tolstoy, Anton Chekhov, Willa Cather, O. Henry, Saki, Vladimir Nabokov, Damon Runyon, Evelyn Waugh, Elizabeth Bowen, John Cheever, Truman Capote, John Updike, Muriel Spark, Grace Paley, Alice Munro, and Richard Ford. So many names in there that I recognize, and quite a few very accomplished short story writers. I've already read the Saki one to my parents and my sister, and I think they enjoyed it. I didn't read it out loud very well, I didn't practice it, but in any case, I'm looking forward to getting to the rest of the stories in this collection in November or December of next year. I also received Ordinary Light by Tracy K. Smith. This is a memoir. Tracy K. Smith is a poet who wrote my favorite poetry collection of 2015, which was Life on Mars, and this is her memoir having to do with race relations and her family. I am so excited to get to this. I'm so excited to see how a poet writes a memoir because I so thoroughly enjoyed her poetry, and I'm hoping this will just be an absolutely beautiful read. Also, Acacia, if you want to buddy read this with me, just let me know. That would be really good. I also received Ghostland, an American History in Haunted Places by Colin Dickey. This is a look at how the haunted places and the hauntings and the ghost stories in America, in different places around America, can tell us about America and the people within America. This was recommended by Caitlin Doty over on her channel Ask a Mortician. I also recently saw Whitney from All the Shelves read this and really enjoy it, so I am so excited to get to this sometime in 2017, but first, my mom's going to borrow it and read it first, so I have to wait until she's done with it before I can jump in. And the last book that I acquired and haven't yet read is Women in Science, 50 Fearless Pioneers Who Changed the World, written and illustrated by Rachel Ignotovsky. I probably said that wrong, but I tried my best. So in case you don't know what this is, these are short biographies with beautiful infographics on various women scientists throughout history. They are set up in chronological order of the year of these women's births, and it doesn't look like it yet, but they have different color themes, and they're all in rainbow colors. And these cover a lot of women who you may have heard of before, like Marie Curie, but then a lot that you probably haven't heard of before. I certainly haven't heard of them before. This is just such a really awesome idea, and it is so incredibly beautifully published. I mean, look at that cover. I love the cover so much. It also has some very adorable end papers. This does not come standard, however. I will have to show you what this is, in fact, because this ties into one of my bookish gifts that I was given, which was a personal library kit. So this includes sleeves and cards that you would see in the non-digital library system, and they are so that you can keep track of who has your books and also theoretically give them due dates. I have already put it, as you saw, in Woman in Science, so just for the fun of it. But this fulfills all of my librarian dreams, because the library system around where I live is awful, and from the stories I've heard, I do not want to be working in it, so I can just make believe librarian in my own personal library instead. This is such a neat gift, and I was so pleased to receive it from one of my dear friends. I was also given this absolutely beautiful bookcase decoration, or just general decoration, from Acacia Ives. This is a piece of wood on which is a John Steinbeck quote from East of Eden, and now that you don't have to be perfect, you can be good, which just makes me warm and fuzzy on the inside. This was such a lovely surprise, and I think that Acacia just did an excellent job of picking out something bookish that would fill my heart with joy. This is already on my shelf in front of where East of Eden lives, and I enjoy looking at it every single time that I do, so thank you very much, Acacia. This was very thoughtful. And the last thing I need to show you doesn't present well on camera, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. This is a reading lap tray. So you set it on your lap, and then you prop up this side, and you can set your book on it, and then also have a flat surface to set your tea or your coffee or your bookmark or your note-taking pad. This was a thoughtful and very imaginative gift from my sister, and I am so looking forward to breaking this in, because I, as you guys know, have a hard time sitting comfortably reading just because of various physical, challenges of mine. It's not terrible, but it gets annoying sometimes, so hopefully this will aid me in many an hour of reading, which I will need to do to accomplish anywhere near 0 by 18. So that was my Christmas book haul and the final books that have been added to my hauled list for 2016. Be on the lookout for a video that talks about the books I hauled this year versus the books I read, which includes how much I spent on books in 2016. So hopefully you're excited to hear about that, because I'm excited to ponder the implications that are going to be coming to fruition in that video. Thank you for watching. If you want to let me know some of the holiday gifts that you were most happy to receive this year, I would love to creep on your life and learn about them, and also perhaps get some book recommendations. Not that I need to add any more books into my life, but in any case, thank you for watching. I hope you had a lovely gift-giving season and continue to be lovely. My patrons are really cool and generous, and it's just awesome to see that generosity all year round, not just in the holiday season, in the winter season, or at least winter in the Northern Hemisphere. But in any case, you, my patrons, are awesome. Thank you so much for what you do for this channel and for me personally. I hope that you're reading a book that you love and are going to read many more in this upcoming year.